Spoiler warning for Telltale's Batman series, at least up to episode 3 in the first season. And I'm not talking about Stephanie Brown spoiler, so be like Batman and remain vigilant for major plot spoilers. That being said, I recently started replaying the Telltale Batman series via livestream.
This is so messed up. Close your eyes, everybody. Do it. Oh my god, I'm gonna give in to peer pressure. Okay, fine. Oh my god. Dude.
Much love to everyone who tunes in, and anyone who hasn't should too. And I had an epiphany during the second episode's replay. After Renee Montoya gets drugged, she says someone guided her by the arm, talking about revolution. Initially, the player is led to believe she's talking about Penguin like Bruce. However, Bruce runs into none other than Vicky Vale on the way out, who happens to already know about the murder of Falcone. Like Jigsaw in the Saw franchise, she likes to watch her victims and take part of the game, since some more noticeable involvements of Vicky with the Children of Arkham schemes are when she injects Dent and Hill at the debate, or when she writes an article about having an interview with their leader. It's also worth noting that she asks what Bruce intends to do to Arkham at he and Dent's press conference. The reason I bring up these points is that so I can return to that moment during episode 2 and say it had to have been Vicky who drugged and led Montoya, which means her reveal as Lady Arkham was under our noses the entire time. Which brings me to my next point and the main topic of this video: how to properly execute a plot twist. Something coming out of left field isn't as good as something that's been alluded to. It takes a special subtlety to set up a twist or reveal for later, without it being too obvious. A good example is how the original Star Wars preemptively alludes to Vader's identity.
I wish I'd known him. He was the best star pilot in the galaxy.
The type of subtlety that I'm referring to is stuff that's easily overlooked on first watch, but recognizable on rewatch, or perhaps even missable for a number of rewatches until years later. There's a way to finesse laying the groundwork by having something strung out over the span of the film or series, because it provides a proper payoff rather than something thrown in solely for shock value. A bad example of how to do plot twists is Mandarin in Iron Man 3.
Where's the Mandarin? Where is it?
Whoa. Something coming out of left field without any preamble feels unearned and random. I'm sure you've heard people criticize stories for sudden shifts, or things feeling forced whenever there's a plot twist or reveal, and that's often because they lack the necessary setup I spoke of before. Hell, even CW got it right. Harrison Wells has a line where he says, "It was before my time," when referring to a movie that came out. Eobard Thawne is from the 25th century, the future. Cheeky lines are the equivalent of winking at the audience or smirking at the camera. It's running a risky move, but has just as much of an effective impact. However, that brings us to my final point about this power of presenting plot twists. That you have to remember the importance of what I said about these nudges toward the reveal being subtle. The whole point of a plot twist or a reveal is that you don't want the audience to figure it out or see it coming. That's why the more subtle you are, like the scene I mentioned in episode 2 of Telltale's Batman, or the pilot tease with Vader in Star Wars, the better you are at treading that line. Only whenever you're starting to near your reveal should you start dropping heavier hints, like Vicky's interview with Batman in the park during episode 3, showing her clear bias. Not yet convinced or don't fully understand? Alright, one final example and recap then. In episode 1, right from the very beginning, Penguin at the party and then Vicky Vale's arrival are done back to back. The implication is that they're involved with one another, and that's how their partnership began with an initial meeting. However, get this is even cooler of an insinuation. Let's not forget Falcone also shows up immediately after that, and Harvey is with you the entire time throughout all of these character introductions. What am I getting at, you're asking? Well, let me ask you what all these characters have in common. They're all enemies to Bruce and Batman. Vicky was pegged as an enemy from the very beginning of the game's story. I hope this video was as informative to you as my own revelation through the game's replay has been to me, and would love to get your thoughts or feedback in the comments. Maybe give me some examples of other fantastic plot twists that you consider to be your favorite executions to the style I talked about. Consider joining me for future Batman Telltale livestreams, since I'm still replaying the games and these sort of revelations are bound to continue happening, so perhaps you could witness them firsthand. And finally, if you're a new subscriber or viewer, welcome to the Grosser Group.